Florida makes some big additions to their coaching staff, and Jake Crain stops by to preview the SEC Championship. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast now. The number one sports podcast network here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. All right, let's get into the news of the day. We start off over at Florida as they are reportedly finalizing deals to make some big additions to their coaching staff, OC and DC. We'll start with the offensive coordinator. Florida said to hire Georgia Tech offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner. ESPN's Pete Thamel breaking the news Thursday afternoon. Faulkner been a big part of Georgia Tech's success under Brent Key and has been highly sought after for multiple jobs the last couple of seasons. Faulkner also has previous experience in the SEC, was quarterbacks coach at Georgia from 2020 through 2022. According to Thamel, Georgia Tech was willing to match Florida's salary offered to get Faulkner and keep him in Atlanta, but Faulkner heading to Gainesville to be the OC on John Sumrall's first Florida staff, and a big get there. We'll see if he ends up working with quarterback DJ Lagway, wide receiver Dallas Wilson. That's all, roster retention. We'll see if Florida's able to do it, but did hear some reports that maybe there was a chance that Faulkner would have followed Sumrall to Auburn had he gotten that job as well. So it looks like Faulkner was ready to make the leap to the SEC. On the defensive side of the ball, this came out the day prior, but John Sumrall hiring Kentucky's Brad White as his defensive coordinator. White was the Wildcats DC the last 7 seasons, and under his watch, Kentucky had 14 NFL draft picks, 6 picks in the top 2 rounds. White put out a statement saying, extremely thankful to Coach Sumrall for this exciting opportunity, ready to hit the ground running on helping construct a defense that will make Gator Nation proud. Coach has already stated the vision, be the most feared defense in college football. This year, Florida's defense gave up 24 points a game, which ranks 64th in the nation. But John Sumrall looking to turn that around. And man, you gotta like both those hires if you're a Florida fan. Brad White on the defensive side, Buster Faulkner on the offensive side. And I said it the whole time. I mean, John Sumrall, if he's coaching a team, they're going to have a good hard-nosed defense, but it's all about that offense. And Buster Faulkner, like we said, very highly sought after. That's a great hire for John Sumrall there at Florida. We'll see if it works out. In other SEC news, over at Alabama, Kalen DeBoer shutting down any rumors of potentially going to Penn State. Ahead of the SEC championship game, DeBoer was asked about the Penn State job. DeBoer said he appreciated the chance to address the Penn State talk and put an end to that speculation. He said, quote, "We are extremely happy at Alabama. We're extremely happy here. Love the challenge, love the grind, love this place. There's never been any link. There's never been any conversation. There's never been any interest either way. So I'm glad we can just put that to bed now." Of course, DeBoer in his second season there at Alabama, 19-6, taking over for Nick Saban and on the verge of making the college football playoff here. So, just go ahead and dismiss those rumors. It was, I said it was silly when they first came out. Look, not to say DeBoer wasn't potentially on a hot seat and could be let go, but I just didn't think he'd be leaving Alabama for Penn State. Meanwhile, over at Texas A&M, we reported earlier this week that Texas A&M set to lose their offensive coordinator Collin Klein, and that becoming official as Kansas State put out a press release confirming Collin Klein will continue as Texas A&M's OC through the Aggies run the playoff, but he will be the next head coach at Kansas State, his alma mater. Klein saying in a statement, "My family and I could not be more grateful for the opportunity to come home. Thank you to the school president and athletic director. The position of head coach at Kansas State has a long legacy of service, hard work, determination, and I cannot wait to get to work." A&M's offense ranks 5th in the SEC in yards per play this regular season, but no doubt Marcel Reed has seen tremendous improvement this year, and Collin Klein calling those plays has been a big part of it. A few LSU nuggets here. First off, LSU defensive coordinator Blake Baker is a finalist for the Tulane head coaching job. Tulane will play in the AAC title game tonight against North Texas. Of course, if Tulane makes the playoff, John Sumrall will continue to coach the team into the playoff before he heads down to Gainesville to officially become, just full-time Florida head coach. But Blake Baker, LSU was hoping to retain him under Lane Kiffin as his defensive coordinator, but sounding like we could get an announcement this weekend that he will officially be the Tulane head coach. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Meanwhile, Lane Kiffin adding a former a veteran SEC O-line coach to his staff, according to reports. Lane Kiffin hiring Eric Wolford to be on his offensive staff. Don't know if it'll be his O-line coach. Of course, Wolford been in the SEC the past 9 years with stints in Alabama, South Carolina, and Kentucky. We told you the other day that Kentucky is making their hire of Will Stein as their offensive or their head coach, and some news on who will be his offensive coordinator. Former LSU offensive coordinator Joe Sloan going to be the OC under Will Stein. So 38-year-old Sloan, he was LSU's OC for 2024 and 2025. In 2024, LSU's offense ranked second in the nation. And Garrett Nussmeier and team, they looked really good, but that all regressed this past year. Now, there are some reports that Will Stein will still be the play caller at Kentucky, so maybe Joe Sloan will just kind of be a collaborative part of that room with him. But Joe Sloan staying in the SEC, going from LSU over to Kentucky. Meanwhile, over at South Carolina, it's been a rough go for Shane Beamer this season, making a change to his coaching staff. Of course, the Gamecocks coming close to maybe making the playoff last year at 9-4, but they took a step backward this year at 4-8. While Shane Beamer reportedly dismissing his running back coach Markel Blackwell on Thursday. Blackwell marks the third offensive assistant to be let go, joining O-line coach Lonnie Teasley and OC Mike Shula. So a lot of changes happening there for South Carolina. Meanwhile, Billy Napier, former Florida head coach, going to get back into coaching very quickly. According to reports, he is set to become the next head coach at James Madison. So Sunbelt Billy, all the jokes about that name will be once again. Billy Napier will head back to the Sunbelt. He will replace Bob Chesney, who was hired at UCLA. So Billy Napier, James Madison University. It will be fun to watch JMU and see. Look, I think Billy Napier was a good head coach at Louisiana. We'll see. I think he'll be good at James Madison. Just wasn't cut out for the SEC in the grind of the schedule that Florida Gators had. Meanwhile, over at Auburn, Hugh Freeze doing some interviews this week and, obviously out of a job, but sitting down with On 3 talking about the struggles this past season. And we're talking about the offense. He stated that Jackson Arnold's miscues contributed to his firing. He said, quote, "Let's be clear. This is not to beat up Jackson Arnold, but it's never always the quarterback. There are other factors. I mean, he missed a touchdown throw here at Oklahoma to a wide open Cam Coleman. Those plays you got to make to win games." And he would say that too. And there's also the Missouri game where we have 8 drops. And there's moments of the Georgia second half where he misses open guys or the protection's not great. So it's a combination of all those things. But certainly it didn't work out to the level that he nor I both expected for him and our team. And that's why I am sitting here. So, yeah, I mean, look, you freeze. You missed on the quarterback evaluations for Peyton Thorne to Jackson Arnold. You hitched your wagon to the wrong guys, and that is why you were unemployed. Meanwhile, over at Georgia, they're getting ready for the SEC championship game, and Zion Branch considered questionable for Saturday's game. He was added to the availability report on Thursday evening. He's the only Georgia player who's questionable. So we'll see Colby Young, Ethan Barber, Bo Walker, Drew Bobo, Jordan Hall have all been ruled out. If Branch isn't able to go, it'd be a little bit of a loss for Georgia. He's played 119 snaps in 7 games this season for the Bulldogs. Played sparingly over the first half of the season, but has been picking it up here the last couple of weeks. He's got 22 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and a pass deflected. So we'll see what Georgia's defense looks like this week. And then lastly, quick note on the SEC scheduling. We will get 2026 schedule reveal show next Thursday night. All SEC programs will know their schedules. We know the opponents. That's already been decided, but we will know the schedule and the weeks you play them. And as one friend in Oxford said, we will know what week Lane Kiffin will be getting booed in Oxford when LSU heads there. So we'll find that out next Thursday. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, our conversation with Jake Crain. You don't want to miss that. Coming your way in just a sec. Hey, first, I want to remind you guys, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching a game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And we'll be telling you guys about some of the action and the lines happening this weekend. We've got the SEC championship game. Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite over Alabama. You can get that right now at FanDuel. Some of the other lines happening this weekend: Ohio State, a 4.5-point favorite against Indiana. Texas Tech, a 12.5-point favorite over BYU. That's a large number. Duke versus Virginia. Virginia, a 3.5-point favorite over Duke in the ACC title game. In the game tonight, North Texas, a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Tulane in the AAC title game. So that will be fun to watch there. But again, make it interesting. Get in on the action with FanDuel. You can bet whatever you want, just about. If you want to be right in the middle of the action all throughout the rest of this NFL season, you can visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you with our friends at FanDuel.com. Run along here, Locked On SEC, and always a pleasure. Catch up with our buddy Jake Crain from Crain & Company, jumping in with us. And Jake, my gosh, there's so much on the plate to talk about. Welcome in, my friend.
Oh, man, first off, thanks for having me, Gordy. Man, what a great time of year on the sports calendar. March Madness is my favorite thing. It's my favorite sporting event that there is. But I tell you, when you can get college football high level into the year, the ACC SEC challenge, these non-conference college basketball games, you got NFL. I mean, heck, it's just an awesome Christmas right around the corner. So it's just excited to be here, man. It's a heck of a time.
I had somebody ask me, like, have you seen that new series on Netflix? I'm like, bro, who has time to watch Netflix right now?
Yeah, like, look, I already watched the one I needed to watch on the SEC stuff before the year, so I'm good.
Well, before we I want to talk SEC championship game with you, but before we get to that, your general thoughts on some of the hires around the SEC. We'll kind of run through them quick, but first, let's start with Lane, leaving Ole Miss for LSU. What'd you think?
Well, look, regardless of what you think about Lane Kiffin as a person, you feel like Lane, molding with LSU, it's hard to not feel good about that if you're an LSU fan, and it's hard to not look at that and think, there's a decent amount to a chance of a large amount of success coming with that. It's funny. LSU's a place, and look, I'm not one of those guys that you have to be a perfect fit. Like, sometimes I think we over exaggerate that. There's some advantages built in to like a fit, but it's not the end all be all. Just like you don't have to look a certain way or be from a place to recruit a place. If you can recruit, you can recruit. But It's funny because you had Les Miles and Ed Orgeron win a national championship, which one guy ate the grass, the other one smoked it. And then you thought with Brian Kelly coming in, like he's the ultimate CEO. He's going to give LSU the thing they were missing, and that's structure and consistency. And it just shows you how crazy college football is that he's out the door. And I feel like Lane Kiffin is kind of the perfect combination of nuts, because Lane is nuts, but also he understands how to put together a machine to win. And at this point with LSU, even with NIL that has changed the landscape of recruiting, all you got to do is just get in the Lamborghini and turn that thing on. You just don't crash it and make sure you're driving, as focused as possible. And I think Lane will do that. So, Lane to LSU, there's a very high probability that it's going to work. But Gordy, I'll be honest with you, man. And I've always said since I got into this, I think projecting how a head coach will do is the hardest thing in our business, because there are so many variables. Even when you have a head coach going to be a head coach somewhere else, that's not even considering a coordinator like a Will Stein going to Kentucky. I mean, which I think that was a great hire. I don't know if there's great or bad hires anymore. I really don't. It's ever since Brian Kelly and a couple other things have happened. Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, I'm shocked that one didn't work out with what he was able to do with limited resources at Oregon State. So you got to feel good, though, if you're an LSU fan, regardless of Lane's antics.
Yeah, I'm with you. I said the same thing. I thought the day Hugh Freeze and Brian Kelly got hired at LSU and Auburn, I said, oh, these are home run hires. So you never know until they pan out.
Well, the landscape's so different. Like,
yeah.
It's so different. Like, you could really feel good about a projection as a head coach 7 to 10 years ago because you understood the way these things work. And now with NIL and the transfer portal, it has totally redecorated the ecosystem, and it makes it that much harder to do, but it's fun to keep up with, that's for sure.
And finding out this week that Brian Kelly was playing a ton in golf, I think I want to put in my coach's contract now, no golf. I mean, it seems like that's a thing now.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you got to love football more than golf.
Speaking of, let's get to the Auburn hire. I think when I heard the news, first off, Auburn gave it a hell of an effort in the Iron Bowl. But when I hear that night, Saturday night, hey, Auburn's going to make an announcement tomorrow morning at 10, I'm going, oh, are they just going to go with DJ Durkin? Like,
Yeah.
I went to bed thinking that. And then we wake up and find out, no, they went and got Alex Golesh, who had an offer on the table from Arkansas, and he swerves over to Auburn. I like the hire. I've watched a lot of USF the last few years. I mean, the offense has been great. What'd you make of that one?
Well, shocking. Because again, that Auburn, nobody can keep a secret, let alone Auburn. If this was in the works for a couple weeks, then it would have leaked out at least a couple days before the announcement was made, probably even before South Florida played last Saturday. But if you watch Golesh's first address to the team, he was offered the job at 1 a.m. in the morning last Sunday. So that's not typically how these things work out. That's not a planned thing. So and again, we did a whole show on Crain and Company. I have somebody inside that knows and how it went down with Sumrall, because don't forget, Sumrall canceled an interview with Florida. He was going to Auburn. He's a Grissom High School graduate. His wife graduated from Auburn. He wanted the Auburn job, and some things happened, and then all of a sudden you start hearing Sumrall to Florida, and Auburn says, well, we're going to make an announcement Sunday morning at 10 a.m. There's really no other candidates. Golesh really wasn't even talked about at all outside of the beginning as kind of an add-on candidate to make the conversation more interesting. And so you're assuming, and up until 1 a.m. in the morning, it was DJ Durkin. And it's no coincidence that Alex Golesh takes the Auburn job at 1 a.m. Sunday morning. And I'm sure his next call was to Hunter Yurachek to tell him he's not going to Arkansas. And it's not a coincidence that Ryan Silverfield is hired at Arkansas basically to the minute that Alex Golesh is announced at Auburn. So I like the hire, and it's not really anything schematically. It is attitude and personality. There is a certain attitude and I use the word ego. You have to have ego that you have to succeed at this level, especially when your rivals are Georgia and Alabama. And look, I coached for a long time at a pretty high level, and you want to make good men, right? At the end of the day, life is more than just football. But Gordy, making good men is something you should do, not for the benefit of yourself, but it's the right thing to do. And in the real world, you could be the best guy possible. If you don't get views, you're going to get fired. If I'm a salesman, I can be the nicest guy. I can bring donuts every morning. I can walk every old lady across the street. But if I'm not making sales, I'm going to be fired. So excuse me if I don't hold a head football coach that's making millions and millions of dollars with a buyout attached to a standard of the scoreboard matters. The result matters. So it's not about just being your friend. It's not about listening to Switchfoot before you go to play games and sitting in a kumbaya circle. We were meant for so much more, yes, but you were meant to win football games. So I think he brings that. I caught some backlash from saying that at the end of the day, winners win and losers lose, and Auburn has a loser mentality, and you can't look at the numbers and say, well, they're just a bunch of winners. They're just not winning. I wasn't the first person to say that. The first person I heard say that was Alex Golesh in an interview about halfway through the season. It's it's a dirty business, man. Like, this is a dirty, cutthroat business, and not everybody is meant for this. And I think Golesh, from a personality standpoint, he wants to go hunt to kill his food. He does not want to be a house cat and have his food brought to him, and that's what Auburn needs. That they need somebody that's going to keep it real, and I think Golesh is that guy, and he understands what works in this league and how you got to go about being in this league as a head coach, as a staff, and as a team.
Yeah, and look, huge to keep DJ Durkin in-house. I mean, I know he was hoping to get that job, but to be able to get both, I think is huge for Auburn. And
best case scenario, I think. I think best case scenario. I mean, DJ, at the end of the day, he had a stint at Maryland. It didn't work out. I hope he gets another chance to be a head coach, and he could end up being awesome. You didn't earn this one. Like, you really didn't. And the defense has been the best part of Auburn's team, but the best part of a 5-7 team isn't really something to brag about.
A quick thought on Sumrall. I saw he's bringing the Brad White from Kentucky over as his DC, and then the news came out that OC he's getting Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech, which is a huge hire. Who was
going to go to Auburn with him? Yep, that was another little nugget that was dropped out there. If Sumrall came to Auburn, Buster Faulkner would have gone with him. the DJ Durkin thing was a little bit of a hang up too, and there's a couple other things that end up souring that. But look, multiple things can be true at once. And again, we really don't know. I mean, check back in 3 years, but I do think Auburn and Florida, from a personality standpoint, because Sumrall is cut from the same cloth, as Golesh and, Kirby and something. Not saying he's going to be Kirby, but it is a no nonsense, addicted to the process and understanding that it is a race against yourself. That's the best quote I've heard about it. And it takes a type of personality to be able to stand up to those guys, and not only stand up to them, but beat them. So I think Auburn and Florida, did what they had to do from a personality standpoint. Now see how it works out.
Last one of the coaches, the Golding. I get rally around the troops and, hey, let's keep this thing together. But to me, a little bit underwhelming. I've asked a few people, is Pete Golding ready to be a head coach? And I've heard mixed things, but what'd you think of that one?
Well, I mean, what else are you going to do? Like, I think if you want to sit here and make the argument that they shouldn't have put the permanent tag on him, there's some logic to that, right? Keeping him as the interim. But you're kind of forced into this because Ole Miss is in a different position than these other teams. Like you still have a chance to win a national championship. And,
right.
I actually, said on our show, there's a lot of people that are counting out Ole Miss now. I don't know, man. Like, you want to talk about galvanizing a locker room. Like, look, calling plays and all that stuff is great, but the players make the plays. Like, I've seen a lot of dumb play callers look like geniuses. Not that Lane's dumb. He's a great play caller. And a lot of great play callers look like idiots because you didn't have the players. So I think Ole Miss did what they have to do. You know what it kind of reminds me of in a different kind of frame, Gordy, is Zach Arnett in Mississippi State after what happened to Coach Leach. Yeah, they made him the permanent head coach, but it was a very short leash. And you don't have to drop the bag on him. You can keep him, see how it goes for a year after this. You can put some gold in the vault. And if you want to make a move after this year, everybody's going to understand why you did what you did. And then you can really go drop a bag on somebody to take it over. And then if it works out, you bred him thoroughly. So, I think Ole Miss did what they had to do. I think Keith made the right decision on multiple fronts because he was put in a really, really bad spot. And look, I'm rooting for Pete.
Hey, more Jake Crain in just a second, but first, the holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when you plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup, headaches, just instant smiles. And look, if you're looking for a gift for grandparents, your parents, newlyweds, whatever it is, anybody who loves photos, endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. You can add a personalized message right inside the frame. Plenty of ways to personalize it. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. And all you got to do is use our promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is Aura, A-U-R-A, frames.com. Promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply at auraframes.com. Talking with Jake Crain from Crain and Company. Of course, he and the guys talking sports all throughout the week and hitting on a number of things and big topics throughout the sports world. And Jake, on Saturday, we'll be watching Atlanta as it is the SEC championship game. Stop me if you heard this one. Alabama's playing Georgia. What do you think?
Just play this game at the first of the year. Just get it out of the way. Just get it out of the way.
What do you think? It's so strange how this thing has become. When Kirby sees crimson and white, he gets a chill up his spine.
Well, to me, I'm not one of these trends guys. Like, I don't think what happened 3 years ago has any effect on what happens this year. If anything, it just maybe affects the preparation a little bit because nobody's ever, if you've ever played sports or just went outside and touched grass, I mean, nobody's ever been in the middle of running a route and thought, man, we just can never beat Alabama. I need to make sure I catch this. Like, it's moving too fast. Like, it just doesn't work like that. But you play how you prepare 99% of the time. There's been surprised a couple times on both sides. But I think it's the way the balls bounce too. And you got to give a lot of credit to Alabama. I mean, go back to the game this year. Alabama couldn't, run the ball at all. Georgia was running the ball at will. I mean, go look at the numbers Chauncey Bowens had in that game. Yet Alabama wins the game, and you look, and Bama's 13 of 19 on third down. Like, it just seems like in this matchup, whatever anomalous thing can happen, for Alabama to win the game, it happens. I mean, heck, the one we live streamed, the one last year from Ministry, where Bama came out and looked like the best team in the world for the first half, and then Georgia came fighting all the way back. So I just think it's just how it works out. And I don't think anything before this has any bearing on what's going to happen next. So I don't put too much stock in that. I put stock in the things that I know. I know it's a line of scrimmage game. I know you've got two quarterbacks that have clutched up in big moments. I know you have two quarterbacks that are a part of the run game. Gunnar Stockton's a little more built into the run game than what Ty is, but Ty's been keeping that zone read a little bit more lately, trying to be effective with his feet to, enhance the lack of run game that Alabama's had. But I just at this point think you've got two really talented teams that aren't as elite as what they've normally been, and it should be a heck of a game, man. I'm excited to see it in the way the ball bounces in this one.
Yeah, I took Georgia as my preseason favorite to win the SEC, so I'm going to stick with that, and we'll see what happens. But
well, I took Bama, so we'll see.
Okay. If Bama loses, are they still in the playoff?
They better be. If we're punishing 10-2 teams in one of the top two conferences in the country for losing an extra game when other teams didn't have to play that extra game to the number 3 team in the country, then it's the same thing as if it comes down to Miami and Notre Dame for a spot and they pick Notre Dame over Miami after winning the head-to-head. What are we doing? Like it loses all credibility to me. Like it becomes a joke. It becomes a joke. And the way I've always explained it to me is playing in the conference championship game should only help you if you are 10-2 or better. If you're 9-3, or we have a situation like we did with Clemson last year, right? Or you're Virginia this year in the ACC, not winning it has the possibility to keep you out of the playoff, but not when you're at the 10-2 or 11-1 mark. That's why I say the same thing about BYU. BYU should be in the tournament. The fact that BYU and Texas Tech are 6 spots apart is absolutely ridiculous and makes no sense when you really look at it. So I've always gone about it saying, okay, let's say Alabama were to lose, and you're comparing Alabama with other teams to get into the college football playoff. You need to take their 10-2 resume and compare it to the other 10-2 resume. You need to take their 10-2 resume and compare it to the 11-1 resume. So that's the way I've always looked at it, and I feel like Alabama's safe. I think the committee told you that by jumping them during the last rankings reveal. But if not, it would be a travesty to me. It'd be an absolute joke.
I've said barring a blowout. If it's 35-7, Georgia.
Yeah, still though, Chris. I mean, I don't think so. I really don't, because so we're gonna sit here and say, okay, well, yeah, Notre Dame, you're gonna get in. You're gonna get in at 10-2. You didn't have to play a conference championship game, and yeah, Alabama got blown out by the number 3 team in the country. Notre Dame should be in. I see what you're saying now. If let's say we had a 10-2 Big Ten team, right, that was in the same position Alabama was in, and for some reason that team lost and they barely lost to Ohio State, and Alabama got blown out by Georgia, and it just so happened those are the last 2 teams that are fighting for a spot, then to me that's when we start using words like eye test. To me, that's when we start using words like score differential and scoring margin. Not in this case though. I think Alabama could lose by 100 and still be in, should be in.
Talking with Jay Crain, I think the SEC gets 5 in. Last question for you. I think Vandy and Texas are left out, but what'd you make of the news of Vandy saying, look, we'll go play anybody, anywhere this weekend to get another win on our column?
Well, look, I'm all for a good propaganda campaign, and nobody's thought about that before. It just shows you, like, those Vandy kids are smart, dude. They get it. I love it. And you know what? I think it's actually sincere. I think Clark Lee means it when he says, listen, we'll walk to go play somebody this weekend. Miami, Notre Dame, heck, Utah, it doesn't matter. And that's the type of attitude I wish was all through college football, not only the teams, but the fans. You have some fans that are like, no, I would rather not play in the conference championship game, or this, that, and the other. I just don't like that attitude, and some people are like, oh, we could get injured. Well, guess what? You guys are going to practice this week. You can get injured in practice. I've got stairs in my house. Do I not walk down them the week of going into the college football play? Do they need to carry me around like Dave Chappelle when he was playing P. Diddy on that skit he did when he asked old girl to go find him a sugar cookie and some breast milk? Like, I don't I love the mindset. And I think that's why Vandy is where they are at now, because that's how they feel about stuff.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see. Look, I don't have a Heisman vote. If I did, Pavia would get it for me this season, but we'll see what happens. Jake, let everybody know where they can check out your stuff.
Yeah, easy. Go to YouTube, Crain and Company, Crain and Company. We've got a ton going on. We got our previews out there. We're breaking it down from a fundamental standpoint, to quote the great baseball coach Kent Murphy. So, yeah, come hang out with us.
Yeah, I love watching your shows. There's some days you guys are dropping like 4 or 5 videos in one day, so it's
yeah, man. Look, it never stops. You know how it is, Gordy. You grind it out too, brother, and obviously you know how much I respect your stuff, and I appreciate you having me on.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Or thanks again to Jay Crain. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. A reminder, we are the #1 sports podcast network out there. You guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Come back and see us. We'll react to all the happenings of the weekend, including the playoff field being set after we crowned an SEC champion. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.